This is To the Front. Tools for today's top agents.
Episode number 26 of To the Front is coming in hot. And hey, after a week off, where I missed being able to share with you last week, we took a week here as the team started to think about some of the new content we were going to offer. Took a little May break, if you want to call it that, but we are back and we are excited about some new things that we're going to share with you. We've got some great guests booked. Can't wait to share those with you too. But today's episode is an important solo episode because one of the questions that we get around here all the time is, Adam, how do I bonus my team without money? I don't have a lot of money, or maybe it's just that the times are just kind of tight, or, I'm just looking for something that's something else to make my team feel appreciated. If that you've ever thought about that, you're on the right track. Because I think we get caught up as business owners sometimes just thinking that we can give people their paycheck, maybe a little bonus or commission, and they're going to be fine. They're going to stay with you forever. And that is a huge myth. The reality is that people not only want to be compensated, they want to be appreciated. Write that down. They don't only want to be compensated, they want to be appreciated. They want to be recognized. And so this episode today is all about how do you help them to feel loved and appreciated. And guess what? It's not going to cost you $1. And I think you could implement one of these 4 next things or all of them in your office, and it's going to raise the morale right away. In fact, today's episode is called 4 Ways to Bonus Your Team Without Money. And I guarantee you put one or all 4 of these in your office, you're going to retain team members longer. You're going to have team members that want to show up at the office, and it's just going to boost everything about your business. So here's the first one, and here we go. 4 ways to bonus your team without money. And the first is this: how about you let them earn PTO? Now, I'm a big believer that you should give your team PTO at the start of the year. I'm not a big fan of accruing it, or, you earn so many hours for time worked or years worked or whatever. I'm a big believer that if your team is going to be as effective as they can possibly be, you have got to give them paid time off. You have to. Why? Because people are not built to never be sick. In fact, I've got a cough drop in my mouth right now because I just fought something last week. People are not built that way. So you should already give them PTO, but I think you should also allow them to earn extra PTO based upon their performance. I actually found this out last year. I always thought that people just want more money, but I found out some people are not motivated actually by money. They're motivated by time off. Why? Because then they get to engage and do things in their life that really refuel them. So why not bonus them with PTO? And guess what? Extra PTO doesn't cost you $1. Now, some people have said, Adam, yeah, but they're out of the office. They're not producing. Yeah. Studies find, actually, that in weeks that people have time off, they are not less productive. They're actually more productive in the few days that they work because they know they have to get it all in. So they tend to not slack off as much. They tend to work faster. That's why, in fact, in my businesses, I'm toying around with the idea of a 4-day work week because of that same fact. But you could actually help them to earn a day or 2 days of PTO based upon hitting a goal or some of their production. Now, again, I believe this should be on top, but PTO doesn't cost you $1. It doesn't. You're going to pay them. You're going to pay them just like they were there. But giving them extra doesn't cost you any extra money, like a bonus or a commission. But I'm telling you something, when you give somebody an extra Friday off or Monday off, or, hey, the MVP of the week gets to come in late on Monday and leave early on Friday, I promise you that raises the morale and the competitive nature in your office. So that's the first way to bonus without money. Allow them to earn PTO. And I think that should be PTO that's beyond the PTO that you already give them. Here's a second thing that I've actually heard from a couple agents that works out huge. It's the team member of the month or email spotlight. Is that you ought to think about implementing a team member of the month program in your office. Now, this does not need to pay them any money. Get creative, think outside of the box. How can you make them appreciated and loved? Well, you could start off by just an email spotlight. So you're going to sit down, you're not going to use chat GPT or any of that stuff. You're going to sit down and you're going to write out a paragraph or two about what makes this team member so special to your office. And then you're going to email that out to the whole team. That's number one, right? So all of a sudden now they're praised publicly among their peers, posted on Facebook and Instagram. But don't forget about just the internal email for that. That's number one. Number two, give them the preferred parking spot. The team member of the month, maybe there's a preferred parking spot near the building or just the one that everybody wants. Make that the team member of the month parking spot. And you can even create a cheap aluminum sign, put it up on the side of the building or on a pole and say, this is team member of the month. So that every customer that walks by there is going to say, hey, this is an agency that values their team member of the month. There's all kinds of other things that you can do. So what are the parameters? Well, you get to set what that means. Maybe it's a mixture of attendance or being on time. Maybe it's the team member of the month is simply picked by you finding something or somewhere or some relationship or conversation that they went above and beyond. There's lots of different ways that you can set up the team member of the month. And I want to encourage you, this is very important. Don't make it just like an everybody gets it type of thing. Make sure they earn it. Participation trophies actually don't make the person feel better about themselves. Participation trophies have proven to make the person feel worse because they know they didn't earn it. So make sure it's earned, right? And then make sure to adjust it so that everybody in your office has an opportunity to be team member of the month. You can do that without any money. But how about this next one? This next one I've heard a lot of offices do. They do something called the traveling trophy. Now, I've heard of different metrics to qualify to earn the trophy. Some are who got the most Google reviews this week. Others were who did the most live sales. You could do who produced the most referrals for the agency. There could be a bunch of different things, but literally go to your local trophy shop and make a really fun trophy. Don't make it be a piece of paper or a plaque. That's silly. Make it a fun trophy. Maybe whatever it is. Maybe there's some kind of inside joke in your office and you can make a trophy out of that joke, or make it a really fun traveling trophy. And the cool thing is that whenever a team member loses the traveling trophy, they have to personally, in a kind of a ceremonial during your morning team meeting during the week or during the month, whenever the trophy changes hands, they have to actually hand that trophy and make a quick speech about the person that they're giving it to. Boy, that's going to be a lot of laughs. It's going to be a ton of fun. And then that traveling trophy can sit right on that team member's desk. That doesn't cost you anything more than the cost of a trophy. But it gives them something to go after, and it recognizes them. And heck, if you can build the parameters around it properly, it's probably going to raise the waterline of your agency. All right, so that's three things, right? Let them earn extra PTO, do a team member of the month. What about a traveling trophy for Google reviews or life request or whatever it is, right? Make it something that everybody in your office can obtain, not just your sales or not just your service, but that everybody can obtain it. The traveling trophy. And if your team's big enough, maybe you do one for your service customer support team and one for your sales team if it's big enough. But traveling trophy makes a big, big difference. And then this fourth thing that I want to tell you about ways that you can compensate and bonus your team without money, and is this one. Now listen to this. Boss for a day. Boss for a day. What does that mean? Well, that literally means they get to call the shots for a day. And how does somebody qualify for it? Well, maybe it's you get one person qualifies a month, and maybe there's a whole set of scorecard parameters that they can win boss for the day. Now, for boss for the day, they can do anything. They can ask anybody to do anything or operate the office however they want, except for one thing. They just can't give everybody the day off, right? So everybody still has to come in, but they can decide that, hey, when I'm boss for the day, we're going to be casual. When I do boss for the day, the agent's going to buy lunch for everybody. And again, I know that's money, but that's a small amount of money. When I'm when they are boss for the day, maybe they get to take over your office and sit in your office. And then, you have to go sell, or you have to go do the cold calls, or whatever it is, right? Make it really fun. Boss for a day. They can even decide that hey, I'm going to let people leave an hour early, or we're going to change the time a little bit. Or they can try something wacky in the sales process that they've never tried before. Boss for a day. Here's a couple things that'll do. Number one, that'll be super fun for them. They get to sort of, pretend to put the boss hat on. But here's what I've seen happen inside of businesses that have done this. That boss for a day, they actually come up with really good ideas that get implemented when they're not the boss. I've seen some fantastic ideas where you, as the agent of the boss, never thought about doing this thing, but when that team member was boss for the day, they thought about it. And when they did it, it actually worked for that day. So you implemented it long term. You see, sometimes some of your team members are just kind of scared to give you critical feedback, or what might feel like critical feedback. But you make them boss for a day. They just get to do it. They get to experiment with it. And all of a sudden, now you find out that works. So that's 4 ways to bonus your team without money. Let me go back through them again. Number 1, let them earn PTO. This ought to be beyond the PTO. I'm not talking about changing your PTO system to accrual. That's not what I'm talking about. I think you ought to give them a certain amount of hours or days in advance. Let them earn extra for a job well done. A team member of the month with specifically an email spotlight, where you take time to write a really thoughtful paragraph about why you appreciate this person. 3, a traveling trophy. So make sure it's something fun, something that then the loser, whoever loses the trophy, has to hand it off to the person that wins it with a speech about that person. And then finally, think about boss for a day. They get to call the shots. They can't, they're not allowed to just close the office that day, but they can decide dress code or, a few other operational things, but let them be boss for a day. And these are 4 ways that you can bonus your team without money. Now, I would love to hear your feedback. If you've got some other things that you do that compensate your team that don't include money, I'd love to hear them. Shoot them to me at adam@imafrontrunner.com. That's Adam, ADAM, at the letter I, the letter M, the letter A, frontrunner.com. I would love to hear about some ways that you compensate your team without money. In fact, I may post them after you send them to me. So that's it for episode number 26. Super short episode, hard hitting episode that we think that if you listen to over and over again, you're going to come up with some of your own ideas. But the big point is this: always be on the lookout for how do you raise your team's confidence, their morale, without money. Because the reality is money isn't everything. People want to be appreciated and recognized, not just given a paycheck. Now, paycheck's important. People want to make money. They want to make money in increasing fashion, but that's not enough to keep a great office culture. You've got to do other things that appreciate and recognize your team members, or you're going to find that no team member will stay very long. And you're going to be this revolving door of team. I'm going to tell you something. It's hard to grow an agency when your team comes and goes. In fact, the most successful agencies I know have most of their team as long-standing. They've been there a long time, and we can almost always track it back to that agent that boss is really, really good at making their people feel special. Okay, until episode number 27, go out and lead your agency with courage. It's worth it. Lead it for something more than what your time on earth will provide. Lead it to leave a legacy. And until then, take care.